Hi patrons, for this week's Patreon extras, since I'm anyway experimenting a little bit with sort of the form that I'm giving these videos, I thought it would be useful to, instead of what I used to do with videos like this, is I would give you another chorus of a solo like I have in the main lesson, because the main lesson is sort of a set of arpeggios and some scales, also sort of put into an exercise, and then the final part of that is a chorus. And of course I could write out another chorus and play that, but I think maybe what's more useful and what maybe will work a little bit less for YouTube, but which will actually benefit you guys a lot more if you start looking into it, is if we talk a little bit about how we actually combine the arpeggio and the scale, and then try to make solos. So what I'm going to do is going to be a little bit more sort of solfege on the instrument. I'm not going to write it out. I'm just going to talk about how I write melodies using that material, and how you can put that together. And hopefully that's going to give you a little bit more of an idea about how you can use this, and also just in general how you combine arpeggios and scales, because that's something that can be kind of difficult to get used to, and to end up with some sort of nice creative melodies, or some melodies that actually sound musical. So if we just continue with what we have from the lesson, then I'm gonna focus on the F7, just to keep it really simple. So the most important thing is here, it's an F7 chord, and we have the F7 arpeggio. And actually right now I'm only using sort of this one octave version of it. You probably, and you probably also already know, you wanna know the whole position. Sorry, with the low third as well. So that makes sense to know that. That's always useful. But in this case, I'm going to focus on this one octave. And of course, we have that, but you don't only want to play for the entire blues like... it's not that you can't make good melodies with that, of course, but you want to take a little bit further than that. So we want to combine it with a scale exercise. So if we take that from the lesson, the YouTube lesson, then that will be, whether you saw the YouTube lesson or not, that's the scale I'm using in there. So it's really just playing. If we have the arpeggio, I'm just inserting the scale notes in between the arpeggio notes. So between the F and the A of the arpeggio, I'll put a G, and then B flat between the next two, and D between the last two. So, and that gives us this scale, and you can neatly move that through the changes. That's not so important. That's not really what I'm working with here. But that's the idea here. So we kind of have a way of playing the scale that's really closely related to the way that we're playing arpeggio, the arpeggio. So if we want to make a line with that, just a simple F7 line. So in general, right now, if we're looking at the blues in this medium tempo, probably the lines you want to make are around a bar long, and we want to have some sort of shape to it. Since we don't have too many notes, we have 7 notes and we could expand on it, but we only have that one octave, and we don't really want to use other arpeggios and stuff like that. So probably it's nice to have a rhythmical element as well. I think the first thing we want to look at is, when you're making a melody and you want to have it sound like the F7, you probably want to start and end on an F7 chord tone. So let's start on the 5th, and then let's end on the 3rd. So then we have 2 sort of really strong notes to do that. It doesn't have to be those 2. Maybe I'll do another example and do 2 other notes. So we have those. We start on the 5th and we end on the 3rd. And I guess it's already okay. So really, what I'm doing is I'm going from the 5th up to the 7th. So really, with those 2 notes, I'm staying really clear. Then I'm using a scale run from the 7th down to the 3rd, and because I'm ending on the 3rd, I'm still really connected to the chord. And this line actually doesn't really have much of a rhythmical element. I think if you want to add rhythm, I have to play less notes, of course. So here I'm doing the same kind of line, but I'm leaving out the D. and I'm going down to the root at the end here. So there we get sort of a more rhythmical approach to what's going on. So that's one way of doing that. So we're gonna, all these versions will actually work and still take us from start here and then end on the A. And you can hear how there's still, you kind of want to reference and have the idea that you can hear that the line that you're playing still sounds like the F7. I think that's the important part of what's going on here. So that's really what you want to do with it. And let's see if we can add some more rhythm to it. So as soon as you want to add rhythm, a good thing to do is to start, and also add groove actually, is to start repeating notes, which is something that we do way too little in jazz in that respect. But that's also because if you're really thinking sort of in bob lines, like, then that doesn't work. So you can't really repeat when you have that much movement and it's all moving all the time. You can't repeat notes. It doesn't sound that nice. But if you're, as soon as you start to play really rhythms, so what I think I'm relying on here is really just the idea that if I hear like the da da do 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 do, I'm kind of hearing rhythms. I'm not even too, I think right now I'm actually singing in the changes, but I'm not thinking too much about my note choices. I'm just trying to hear some nice rhythms on top. That can be something that's worthwhile checking also if you have an idea about that, if you can hear some. And it's not something that you magically will be able to do. I think it's something that you, if you put on a backing track or a record or something, and then try and listen, and then see if you can hear some rhythms. And I think if you're listening to a record especially, you can actually hear so the different rhythms that are going to be happening in the different layers in the comping or in the solo, whether it's the comping from the piano or guitar, or it's the comping from the snare drum. So those are the places where you get the rhythms, and you kind of want to just have an idea about how they sound, and then, well, for me at least, it's just like opening a flow. Once you've listened enough and been aware enough of those rhythms, then you can start using them. And that's also what you want to do when you want to have an idea about what kind of rhythms you can use on this F7 of this in this blues. So that's what I'm sort of trying to tap into here, and then I'm playing like the lines extremely difficult now. It's only arpeggio notes. Now I'm going a little bit more into the changes. So still working with the da ba do 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 do. And I think it's also because it's like a medium and it's a blues. You can play rhythms like that and it will work. That fits with the blues. It's not going to fit with Donna Lee, but it works with the blues. So that's also how you get the sort of the rhythmical element into it. So here I'm just repeating that. So starting on the 5th, I actually abandoned ending on the 3rd here, but because I want to repeat sort of having the 5th in there so much. And I think that's the way you have to experiment with how you make melodies with this material. And I'm really just trying to stay within the 1 octave and limiting myself to using that, being clear, ending and starting on chord tones, and then seeing if I can somehow get used to coming up with stuff. And it doesn't, you can also hear that I'll try out different things, and some of it works, some of it doesn't work. And then you need to stick with the things that works, of course. But I think the process of trying to come up with something that works is what's going to teach you how to play this and combine the two when you're improvising. So if I have something where, let's say we start on the 3rd now. So that's an okay line, just the arpeggio. Let's see if we can add some more scale stuff to it. now it kind of sounds like I'm playing through the first 4 bars actually. But really what I'm doing there is I'm actually just adding the scale note in between. And this way of just taking a line, not being strict about it, it doesn't have to stay the same shape, just trying to see, well, can I play something that's a little bit different and does it work? Yeah, that works, okay. That will work as well. Of course now it gets too long to fit in 1 bar, but still. All these different versions of it, and that's what you want to try and mess around with a little bit. And I think also it's the kind of thing where if you start getting used to this, when you're playing on just the F7, then applying it and trying it out a little bit on the B flat 7 or on the other chords is going to be a lot easier, because it's more opening up for the way of thinking than it is the actual notes. If you can already play the exercises, which means that if you can already play the arpeggios, if you can already play the scale exercises, then you can open up for this. And then of course you still need to combine all of these different ideas, and that will be a little bit more of a puzzle in some ways. But I also think that just having this way of getting more out of the simple things, the basic material that we have in this 1 octave, is going to help you do that, and it's going to help you be more flexible with whatever you come up with, and that's also going to make it easier to connect the two. So this is a bit of a loose lesson in that sense that it's quite philosophical and it's more about how you practice it. It's not really about what I'm playing, but I think that's also more useful as a video for you guys to get more out of the lesson from the YouTube lesson. So of course, as always, if you have input on this, if there's something you would rather have, or if there's something that you think I should talk about, and of course also, as you saw last week, if you have a question and I can talk about something completely different, then let me know in the comments. Leave a comment here on Patreon, or send me a message, and then we can see what I can do with it. And for the rest, thank you for your support, and until next week.